Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at something that, well, it might seem really specific at first glance.
Definitely.
The global market for silage rollers. Maybe a bit obscure.
It certainly sounds niche, but, often the most telling insights, they're kind of hidden in these focused corners of the economy.
Exactly. And we've got a guide for this deep dive. It's a research briefing from Cognitive Market Research, their Global Silage Roller Market Forecast 2021-2033.
Right.
So our mission is to sort of unpack the data they've put together, find the really important bits, and figure out what this one piece of farm equipment can tell you about bigger things happening worldwide.
Sounds good. And the report gives us some pretty compelling numbers right off the bat. Globally, this market was valued at $425.9 million back in 2021.
Okay, 425.9 million, that's our starting point. And where is it headed?
Well, they project it'll hit $550 million by 2025. And then it really climbs, expected to reach $917.1 million by 2033.
Wow.
Yeah, that works out to a pretty solid 6.6% compound annual growth rate over that whole period.
Okay, 6.6% CAGR globally for silage rollers. That suggests something pretty significant is driving demand, right? The source mentions a few key things fueling this.
It does, yeah. The briefing points to, well, increasing mechanization in farming basically everywhere, plus a rising demand for high-quality fodder.
Fodder being the preserved feed for livestock, like cattle.
Exactly, preserved feed. And the third thing is just ongoing innovations in how these rollers are actually designed, making them better, more efficient.
So it's not just about replacing old machines, it's more farmers using machines, needing better feed, and wanting the latest gear to do it properly.
Precisely. I mean, think about what a silage roller does. It packs down chopped crops, grass, corn, whatever, really tightly.
And a silo or a bunker.
Right. And that compaction is crucial. It squeezes out the oxygen, lets the plants ferment properly, keeps the nutritional value high, stops it spoiling. So better compaction means better fodder. Better fodder means healthier, more productive animals. You connect the dots, more demand for quality meat, and dairy means more demand for better feed, which means
More demand for better rollers. Makes sense. Tied directly to modern farming efficiency.
Exactly. But what's really interesting, according to the report, is how much this picture changes when you look region by region.
It's not the same growth everywhere then.
Far from it. Let's get into that regional data.
Okay, sounds good. Where should we start? North America.
Yeah, but let's start there. It's a major agricultural player, obviously.
A fairly mature market, I guess.
Relatively, yes. The market there was about $123.1 million in 21, projected to hit $247.6 million by 2033.
Okay.
So that's a regional CGR of 6.1%, a little under the global average, but still, pretty robust growth.
And does the report break it down further? U.S., Canada, Mexico?
It does. The U.S., no surprise, has the lion's share in value. Started at $103.1 million, growing to $205.2 million by 2033. That's a 6% CAGR. But here's a little nuance, Canada. While smaller, $12.2 million in 2021 actually shows a slightly higher growth rate, 6.6%, expected to reach $26.1 million.
Interesting.
And Mexico, smaller still at $7.8 million starting out, also has strong growth, 6.3% CAGR, forecasted to hit $16.3 million.
So Canada's percentage growth is right on the global average, slightly faster than the U.S. market next door. What does that suggest?
Well, it might suggest that even though the U.S. market is huge, maybe the adoption of new tech or replacement cycles are happening a bit quicker, proportionally, in Canada and Mexico, even from that lower starting point.
Right. Shows mechanization isn't just a U.S. thing, it's definitely regional.
Exactly.
Okay, let's hop across the Atlantic. How's Europe looking?
Europe's another really significant market, started at $98 million in 2021, project to reach $202.7 million by 2033. That's growing at a 6.4% regional CAGR.
And who are the big players there, according to the source?
Germany leads the pack in Europe, growing from $17.7 million to $38.9 million. That's a strong 6.8% CAGR. The UK is also healthy, 6.6% CAGR, going from $11.7 million up to $24.9 million. France is a bit more modest, 5.8%, from $10.8 million to $20.7 million. Italy, slower growth actually, 5.4% CAGR. That's $5.7 million up to $10.1 million. Russia is tracking around 6.1% from $12.6 million to $24.7 million. Spain grows from $7 million to $13.6 million.
And the report mentioned Luxembourg specifically. Seems quite detailed.
Yeah, it did. Still pretty small, though. Expected to reach just $4.9 million by 2033. But here's where it gets really interesting in Europe.
Oh.
The category they call Rest of Europe, that collective group, actually shows the highest regional growth rate, a really strong 6.9% CAGR.
Wow.
Yeah, the segment grows quite a bit from $24.7 million in 2021.
This audio was created with podcastle.ai.
Yeah, the segment grows quite a bit from $24.7 million in 2021 up to $55.3 million by 2033.
That rest of Europe detail is fascinating. It suggests maybe while growth is a bit slower in some big established markets like Italy or France, the tech is spreading fast across lots of other, maybe smaller European countries.
That's exactly what it looks like. It's not just the traditional farming giants. That need for good fodder and efficient methods is becoming much more widespread.
Okay, let's shift gears. Asia Pacific. This is often where we see massive growth numbers in global markets.
And yeah, that definitely holds true for silage rollers. Asia Pacific is the fastest growing major region overall. We're talking a 7.2% CAGR.
7.2%.
Yeah, it started at $161.6 million in 2021, and it's expected to more than double $366.4 million by 2033.
Wow, that's a huge leap. Where's that growth coming from mainly? China, I'd assume.
China is definitely dominant in market value, yeah. And strong growth too, 7.3% CAGR. It goes from $71 million in 2021 up to $162.8 million by 2033. So yeah, basically doubling the market size there.
And India. We always hear about the rapid changes in Indian agriculture.
India is a major standout in this report. Really reflects that push for mechanization. It shows the highest growth among the major economies the report looks at globally, an impressive 7.7% CAGR.
7.7%.
Yeah. It climbs from $30.9 million up to $74.7 million by 2033. That's a really clear sign of significant investment and a big shift towards modern farming practices there.
That's incredibly high for an economy that size. What about other countries in the region? Japan, Korea?
Japan grows from $18.7 million to $39.4 million. South Korea goes from $10.2 million up to $19.4 million.
Yeah.
Australia shows more modest growth, $3.4 million to $6.3 million.
Okay.
And Southeast Asia as a group keeps up at a healthy pace, 6.5% CAGR, growing from $24.2 million to $52.5 million.
So Asia Pacific is really leading the charge regionally, huge scale in China, and really rapid growth in India, reflects that big push towards mechanization. What about Latin America? You hinted there might be some surprises there.
Yeah, Latin America features some of the highest country-level growth rates anywhere in the world, even faster than parts of Asia Pacific in percentage terms.
Really? That is unexpected. Tell me more. What's the data show?
Okay, so Brazil leads the region, volume-wise, growing at 7% CGR from $8.4 million in 2021 to $22.7 million by 2033. Argentina grows from $3.1 million to $7.6 million. Colombia shows really significant growth, an impressive 8.2% CAGR. That's going from just $1.7 million up to $5.1 million.
8.2% for Colombia.
Yeah.
That's a substantial jump. What might be driving that?
It suggests a really rapid adoption phase for this specific kit, probably linked to expanding or maybe modernizing their livestock operations. But the real aha moment in the report, for this region anyway, is Peru and Chile.
Okay. What's special about Peru and Chile in this market?
Well, according to the source, they are showing the fastest projected regional growth globally. Remarkable KGRs, 9.2% for Peru.
Wow.
And get this, almost double digits for Chile.
9.8% CAGR.
Nearly 10% growth per year for silage rollers. That's explosive growth for this kind of market segment.
Exactly. Now, their total market values by 2033 are still smaller than the big players, looking at $3.2 million for Peru, $2.9 million for Chile.
Yeah.
But that rate of growth is phenomenal.
It really speaks to incredibly rapid shifts happening in those specific farming sectors. Maybe a quick move towards more intensive livestock farming, or maybe export-focused production needing that top-quality feed.
That is fascinating. You wouldn't necessarily pick those countries for that kind of growth in this, seemingly niche market.
Yeah.
Really shows how local conditions and farming strategies can drive these global trends. Okay, finally, Middle East and Africa.
Right. This region shows more moderate growth figures compared to the others, closer to the global average, maybe slightly below in some places. Egypt has a 4.7% CAGR, going from $2.4 million to $4.4 million.
Okay.
Turkey grows from $1.9 million to $3.8 million. And the rest of the Middle East category grows around 4.8% CAGR, from $3.2 million up to $5.7 million.
So growth is happening, reflects that global mechanization trend, but maybe at a slower pace, maybe earlier stages of adoption compared to, say, Asia or parts of Latin America?
That seems to be what the data suggests, yes.
Okay, so we've gone region by region, country by country, looked at the numbers. Let's just step back a bit, bring it all together. What's the big story this deep dive into silage rollers tells us?
Well, if we connect it all up, the report's findings really show that, yes, mechanization in farming is spreading wide, but the speed and the scale, they vary massively. Depends heavily on the geography, the local farming economics.
Right, developed markets,
Yeah.
US, Germany, China, they dominate right now in just sheer market value.
But it's the emerging markets like India, Brazil, and especially those, unexpectedly fast growers like Peru and Chile that represent the really high growth opportunities.
And it's not random.
No, it reflects where the big investments in modern farming and livestock practices are really picking up speed.
And this all ties back neatly to those drivers we mentioned at the start, that global push for mechanization, the critical growing need for high-quality animal feed, for efficient livestock farming, and the tech itself getting better. So this data, it's not just about metal rollers, is it? It's a real, tangible indicator, backed by numbers, of how farming is changing around the world, region by region, or driven by very specific local needs and opportunities.
Yeah, it clearly shows how global demand for food, especially animal products, filters down to influence investment in very specific farm tech, creating these localized booms in what seem like small markets.
Absolutely. It's a powerful reminder, really. Even in these corners of the economy you might never think about, you can find some genuinely surprising insights that tell you a lot about the world and maybe where it's heading.
Indeed, definitely.
So thinking about that, given how much growth and, frankly, variation we see in a market like silage rollers, driven by these big forces like mechanization, feed quality, livestock trends, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other seemingly small, specific corners of the global economy might be quietly revealing major shifts? Shifts in how we produce food, manage land, respond to changing global demands for the future? What unexpected indicators might you spot if you look closely at the data? Okay, let's get into this. Picture this piece of farm gear, a really heavy roller, right? Sometimes it has these angled plates on it.
Yeah, for packing down huge piles of chopped forage.
Exactly, that's a silage roller. But why should understanding the market for that specific thing tell us anything important?
Well, because that, seemingly simple tool, it's actually...
This audio was created with podcastle.ai.
Well, because that, seemingly simple tool, it's actually really fundamental for making good quality feed for livestock.
Ah, okay.
And looking into its market, we're using insights here from cognitive market research, and they really dig into these niche farming sectors.
Yeah.
It gives us this unique view into much bigger global trends in agriculture.
Right. So that's our mission today. A deep dive into the silage roller market. We want to pull out the key things driving it, the hurdles it faces, the cool new ideas popping up.
And really understand why this small corner of farming actually matters for, how we produce food today and use our resources.
So the basic job of this roller.
It's all about packing chopped crops down really densely, super tight.
Why so tight?
That pushes out the oxygen. And getting rid of oxygen is, well, critical for the right kind of fermentation, anaerobic fermentation.
Okay, like making, I don't know, super concentrated sauerkraut, but for cows.
Yeah, something like that. And proper fermentation, it locks in the nutrients and makes the feed last way longer.
Yeah.
Prevents spoilage.
Which saves all the effort and resources that went into growing the crop in the first place. Makes sense.
Exactly.
So what's pushing the demand for these rollers then? The research points first to just a big jump in the need for high-quality fodder.
Right. As livestock operations globally get more intense, bigger scales, more efficiency, often more confined systems.
The feed has to be consistently good. You can't afford losses there. Poor feed means less productive animals, lower yields.
And tied into that is this huge wave of mechanization in farming generally.
Yeah, especially seeing that in emerging economies, right?
Yeah.
Places in Asia, Africa.
Farmers are adopting machinery to kind of leapfrog older methods, boost their productivity without maybe going through all the intermediate steps.
And the silage roller fits right into that, replacing manual labor, making things more efficient.
And it's not just about efficiency and labor. It's about this shift towards what you might call integrated forage management, precision farming ideas.
So not just chuck and feed together, but being really scientific about maximizing quality and cutting down on any loss.
Precisely. And precision packing with a roller. That's essential for that whole approach.
Plus, you mentioned governments getting involved.
Yeah, there's support, sometimes incentives, for more sustainable animal agriculture. Using rollers fits nicely, optimize storage, reduce waste. That aligns with big goals like food security and just using resources smarter.
Makes sense. Better storage, less waste. The land, water, energy used to grow, it all goes further.
But it's not all straightforward, is it? There are roadblocks.
Definitely not. The report highlights the upfront cost, especially for the really heavy-duty ones or the self-powered models.
Oof, yeah. I can see how that would be tough for smaller farms.
It's a big capital investment. Unless there's good access to finance or maybe like farmer cooperatives, it can be a real barrier.
And then there's the business model side. The demand is super seasonal, right?
Peaks during harvest, absolutely.
So what happens the rest of the year? That equipment's just sitting there. That limited use must affect profitability for the makers and maybe for rental companies too.
Good point. And another critical thing, just awareness or the knowledge gap.
Whereabouts?
In some key regions, maybe parts of Asia, parts of Africa again. Even if the tech gets cheaper, you still have traditional methods, maybe some resistance to change. It's a tech transfer issue too, not just cost.
But the good news is these challenges seem to be driving innovation.
How so?
Well, there's a big push for rollers to be more versatile, more cost-effective.
So making them do more than just roll.
Exactly. Designing them to hook up easily with tractors you already have, maybe units that can roll and level or even spread other materials, boosts that return on investment.
Smart. And what about that cost barrier?
That's where you see things like cooperative ownership or rental models really taking off.
That sounds like a game changer, especially for smaller farms.
Totally. They get the advanced tech when they need it harvest time without having to buy and maintain it year-round.
And the rollers themselves are getting better too?
Oh, yeah. Material science is helping making them more durable, adding coatings to resist corrosion, even tweaking the shape, the geometry of the roller for more even packing.
So better performance, lasts longer, tackles the overall cost of ownership.
So yeah, when you step back, this silage roller market, it really is like a small reflection of the bigger agricultural picture.
A shift towards sustainability and more machines, more tech, constant innovation.
All trying to meet this growing global demand.
It is. And while, sure, challenges like cost and awareness are still there, the way business models and the equipment itself are evolving, it shows a pretty clear path forward for wider use.
Which really leaves you with something to think about.
Yeah.
How does a tool that seems so simple, maybe even overlooked, like a silage roller, actually mirror these huge global shifts in technology, economics, and how we manage resources for food?
Yeah, and what other essential kind of hidden tools may be shaping the industries you care about, working away just beneath the surface?
This audio was created with Podcastle.ai.